Hello, how's everyone today? Sorry I am a little bit late, a little bit tardy, and that's because it's crunch time. It's been a very rough couple of weeks, which is unfortunate because I had that wonderful vacation not too long ago, but yeah, it's just been a little bit non-stop getting ready for all of the stuff in August I was mentioning. And I just took a little power nap and I woke up and I realized I hadn't eaten, so then I had to rush a meal while prepping for the stream. So just the usual, you know, running around. But yes, I'm back to stream for Art After Light on our usual Wednesdays. And I'm going to be working on a different prompt today. If you've joined the Discord or follow me on Instagram, you'll know what it is, but it is going to be an interpretation of a poem, and that we do a visual interpretation of this really lovely summer poem. This is like very new for me. I usually don't try to render art from poetry, so this will be a new experience, and yeah, I'm hoping that it'll be like an eye-opening thing. For instance, like a lot of the art that I've been inspired to make lately are inspired by song lyrics, which is very close to poetry, so I feel like poetry is just a natural next step for me to visually get some, I guess, like practice new skills, visualize new things, basically try to have a creative epiphany if I can. So yeah, I'm going to read you the poem, and it is very summer themed. I also think it's very hopeful, but it is called The Plum You're Going to Eat Next Summer by Gayle Brandeis. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. The plum you're going to eat next summer doesn't exist yet. Its potential lives inside a tree you'll never see, in an orchard you'll never see, will be touched by a certain number of water droplets before it reaches you, by certain angles of light, by a finite amount of bugs and dust motes and hands you'll never know. The plum you're going to eat next summer will gather sugar, gather mass, will harden at its center so it can soften toward your mouth. The plum you're going to eat next summer doesn't know you exist. The plum you're going to eat next summer is growing just for you. I really loved this poem when I first read it. I follow a lot of poetry accounts on Instagram, and that's how I think I found this one. Someone had re-shared it, I believe, and I usually am very picky about my poetry selection, but this one felt very evocative. It is very wordy. A lot of poetry out there is very meaningful in its sparse use of words, I feel like. Whereas this one is quite descriptive, which is maybe something I resonate with. It also talks about plums. It's very easy to visualize a plum, but then create these layers of meaning around it, which I really loved. I also really like the idea that your food doesn't spring from nothing. It comes from a lot of care. It comes from a lot of people being involved. And if you are one of the very lucky few who grows your own fruit and vegetables, this poem might have another meaning for you because you grow your own food and therefore you are your own caretaker in that way. Whereas for a lot of us who buy our plums at the grocery store or the farmer's market, this is coming from a very different viewpoint of society and communities growing food and having them provided to the individual, especially during these weird modern times where off season we can get fruit from pretty much any part of the US. We can have citrus fruit here in New York City, even in winter. And yeah, that's like a little bit still something that I recently have realized I want to get away from, is to steer myself away from non-seasonal fruit and trying to, I mean, it's hard because I love having oranges in the winter time. I love peeling a little clementine if I get sick during the winter or just to have a snack. So yeah, but it is something where I am trying to be more mindful because I'm also trying to shop at farmers markets, which are seasonal, and that means that the crops that they grow is dependent on the weather seasons here in the Northeast area. So yeah, I think this poem speaks to a lot of things that are kind of unsaid, but also can be interpolated. And I really love thinking about the idea that it's not just human hands, but also how the light touches it, how the insects touch it, how the tree itself was lovingly grown onto land. And just, I think that for me, visually and very powerfully, feels like I'm kind of surrounded by food that was made by caretakers, and that really makes me appreciate food more. It really makes me appreciate groceries. Like, grocery shopping just sounds so boring sometimes, like a chore, but I think if we have a connection to our food, it can really change how we perceive hunger, access to food, and things like that. So for me, this poem has many, many meanings, and I think the right to feed yourself healthily, in healthy amounts, things that aren't manipulated, things that aren't necessary only because they're affordable, is really important nowadays. So yeah, hopefully we can talk on that more as we're doing a little drawing about this. I hope you have a chance to read this poem again at your own pace. I'm very sorry if you hear sort of a fan in the background. I actually don't know how loudly the fan is creeping up, but yeah. Today I want to do a little illustration of that poem. It might just be end up being like quite literal and not so much visually striking perhaps. So I want to try just experimenting today, and I'm using a whole bunch of inks. So I have off to the side here my little stack of inks. These are all, it's funny because these inks are inks meant for writing mostly, and calligraphy and letter and brush lettering. So these were part of the Inkvent calendar that I got from a stationery store in Brooklyn called 𝔸𝕣𝕥, and they sometimes provide access to this advent calendar that gives you different inks, and they're a stationery store and they carry lots of pens, and that's what the inks are for. But I actually love illustrating with them and painting with them. So you see here that these are all these little, like, I have 25 of them because it was an advent calendar, so they're all winter themed a little bit, but some of them have really lovely purples that I want to use, purples and reds and blues, because plums to me have that rare color of being warm and cool tone at the same time. Yeah, so these are all different inks. These ones are like a Korean, it looked like a Korean brand, and they have themes around different Korean cultural aspects, historical aspects. Like this one's called 𝔸𝕣𝕥 which is the turtle ship. If you don't know much about Korean history, turtle ships are a pretty incredible part of Korea's military history, so feel free to look that up as well. And yeah, these are all different colors that I'm hoping to dip my brushes into today. And then I have another little notebook here. This is my test palette notebook. This is actually a watercolor notebook, so I do all of my samples and test colors on here to see how it looks on paper. And since so much of what I work with is water-based, it has to be on a watercolor notebook. So I have a ton of my paints on here. The Neo colors are all here. It's all my like little doodles, testing pens, and a lot of the times I'm also doing a lot of drawing with the pen and then doing a wash over it to see how well they survive basically a ton of water being poured on them. So some of these inks are really great, and some of them did not do very well and they washed out. But yeah, this is my little, it's really helpful because I lose track of what kind of mediums I carry, so seeing them all like this is really helpful. It's very nice to see how things will look on a page. And then this is my ink page, so all the inks I showed you just now, this is how they look on paper. Some of them have a really glorious like metallic effect, like you can see that with Dreamcatcher here. It's got this shine to it. Some of them are more matte. Some of them have like a color variance. Some of them like are the same color but they're metallic, so they have a glow, but some of them also change color. Like this one here has very deep purple on one side, but then it shifts to blue. But yeah, this is my little test booklet. Yeah. And so I'm going to use this as a reference when I'm doing my little painting. Okay, and I hope everyone else has grabbed their mediums and are ready to go. I think I'm going to stick to doing inks and then also pens. So I'll stick to sort of a penmanship. So I'm just going to keep it a bit simple today. I won't go too crazy like last week, using a whole bunch of watercolors and things. And I think I'll stick to my usual style of, just because our streams are limited, I'm going to keep it to our usual like border that encases. Okay. Alrighty, let's see. I'm just gonna look up a picture of a plum real quick. I kind of have it in my mind, but you know how when you sometimes are asked to recall something and the more you think about it, the more your memory kind of questions whether that's accurate. These plums look so yummy. Yeah, I think I really like that sort of deep purpley hue that's a little bit more blue than red. Oh, they look so yummy. Oh, someone put up a photo of a plum pie. I might have to buy some plums at some point. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna draw. I'm just gonna like go right into it. Have my sample book here. Trying to see which colors look like they'll be good. Some of these blues and purples could work. Just trying to see which one might be better on this paper, because sometimes it doesn't turn out Like it turns out differently on regular paper versus watercolor paper. So maybe this, like the Dreamcatcher might be too red. And I know that this Nostalgia is looking really brown on the camera, but it's actually got a hint of purple in it that can only be seen through in person. Laurel might be okay down here, this one, but that one's also metallic. And it also has a lot of green in it, so I don't know, maybe that could be a look. Let me try Dreamcatcher first. I'm going to keep it nice and easy today. I have to sign off a little bit early today because, like I mentioned last week, I've got a convention coming up and I'm in the middle of doing a bunch of prints for it. I actually have a market this Saturday and it hasn't even registered because I've been prepping so hard. Like at that market on Saturday, I'm just bringing whatever's ready. Like I don't even know what will be ready, but I can only bring what I have done. Whereas the convention next month is something that I have to prepare for. So alright, let's just start doing some painting. Ooh, it's actually coming out very blue. Although it's starting to change color now. So you can't tell with these inks. And if maybe I have time, I might even bring out the color pencils and maybe do a little like shading. This is looking like a stack of blueberries rather than plums. But I think this was the right choice of color because plums have such a weird tone happening with them. I'm thinking I'll do like a bunch of plums just floating in the air first, and then as I fill in the background I might throw in some of the words and lines from the poem. I think that might be fun. Yeah, so I've got a bunch of stuff that has moved along since I last spoke to you guys last Wednesday. I've ordered a bunch of stuff, so I'm prepared in that respect. The only thing I have left to order is business cards, and it's very annoying because I recently ordered, well, last year I ordered a whole ton of inventory with my branding, which was, at the time, my business was 𝔸𝕣𝕥. And then I started the year feeling like 𝔸𝕑𝕤 was sort of antiquated. It didn't really describe the direction of the business I wanted to go in. So I felt like also a lot of people like hear 𝔸𝕑𝕤 and they think cute things. And in the beginning, that was what I did. I did a lot of cute stuff. And I still love seeing cute things, and making cute things for me is incredibly easy. So that's why it kind of was my default. So I feel like for me, cute inventory, cute branding, cute supplies is sort of comes very easily to me, but I feel like it's also very funny because it's not authentically me, I feel like. Ooh, that was crazy. Sorry, I washed my brush in my jar of water and it turned the most bright blue, like the most insane blue ever. It looks like the Caribbean Sea. But yeah, so I used 𝔸𝕣𝕥 for quite a while, and I was happy with it, but I could also tell people were like sort of confused by it. They didn't really know like what to make of the name. What kind of bear is that? Why is your name 𝔸𝕣𝕥? Are you a bear? And I love bears, and I kind of want to stick to that motif of them, but yeah, they're definitely not, I don't really feel like I've changed a lot since then, and I've grown into like myself more. So I also felt like I was applying for markets and business opportunities that spoke to me, and what spoke to me was something that like a category of art that 𝔸𝕣𝕥 would end up sounding very confusing. So, and by that I mean like spooky things for the most part. But I spent the first part of the year really questioning it, and then I decided it would be too much of a pain to go back and rebrand everything, because I already had all this branding. I already had all these business cards, I already had sticker tape, all these things that were supposed to be something I would use for years and years, because I invested pretty heavily up front in them, and I'll probably still use them, but I'll have to like modify them, unfortunately. But I spent the whole first half of the year really like testing out 𝔸𝕣𝕥, like really testing it and figuring out if I can make it work without having to change anything. And I decided this past month, like during my break month in June, that I really wanted my identity to be authentic, and so that's why all my social media now is called the Witch Moo, and it lined up with what I wanted to do with the streams, it lined up with what I wanted to do with my portfolio, it lined up with how I wanted people to see my art and know what to expect. You hear someone call themselves a witch, you kind of end up having a general idea of what that means. So for me, that was more important in the long run. So although it was really painful to like, for instance, my website is still 𝔸𝕣𝕥, and I canceled my auto renewal of my website so that I could change it. So now all my business cards are defunct. And I don't have many business cards, thankfully, but I did have a lot of like labels, sticker labels, so that's going to be a little bit annoying. But yeah, I have to place a new order for business cards, all with my rebranding. And yeah, I've decided that instead of doing like the typical paper business card, I might just do stickers with a QR code on the back. So I feel like the QR code can be updated, so the QR code is easy to update. I don't have to rebrand. Like if I change my website name, I would have to change everything that has the website name on it. But yeah, with the QR code, I can kind of adjust that on the fly if things change again, which I hope it won't. But okay, I've drawn a bunch of plums. It just kind of looks like a bunch of they actually look more plum-like now that the color is drying. It just looks like a bunch of black holes. I'm gonna start coloring in the background a little bit. I'm gonna use a sort of neutral green color called Fur and Fog. That's the name of this one. If I can find it. Oh my god, it's really gonna be the last. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so I'm gonna order some business stickers, and hopefully that will be more exciting than getting a business card. Hopefully. We'll see. That just means I have to order things, and I'm so tired of ordering branding items. I love painting with inks. It's like my favorite. It was my revelation when I realized I could paint with inks. I love watercolors too, but something about inks is very saturated. If you want to go for that nuanced painterly effect, watercolors is still very viable. I still love painting with watercolors, but there's something about the way ink moves that's very exciting to me, kind of speaks to me a little bit. So yeah, if you're someone who is a painter and you love painting in different mediums or experimenting with different mediums, writing inks, ink bottles in and of itself is already very exciting to me. It's like, look at this, look at this this little glass capsule with liquid inside. It's just, they have such fun shaping to them, but the inks inside are very saturated. They also can come in so many different like variations, such as the metallic one that I just had, and they're just really fun to work with. They're sort of spontaneous in their color, and the way that they move around the paper is very satisfying to me. Probably a little bit less predictable than watercolor, but I think that's what makes them exciting to me. That's a fun color combo. This is really fun. This is what happens when I use a medium that I enjoy. But I think it's worth it to also experiment as well. So yeah, if you go to a stationery store or a fountain pen store or a store that carries, or Blick even, if you see a bunch of ink bottles, just know that it doesn't have to be used in a writing format. It can totally be used as a drawing method. I'm very nervous about all the stuff I'm applying for next year. Or not next year, next month. I don't know. It feels very like this year has been sort of non-stop, but it also feels very high risk, high reward sort of year for me. So it just feels like I had a lot of opportunities this year, a lot of things I tried that ended up working out more so than the year before. And there's a lot of stuff happening in my life that's very exciting for me. So that's been like really great I feel really like blessed to have these opportunities, but also because of all these things I'm doing, a lot of them have been investments. So I just have to have really good control of my finances is what this year feels like. Like I'm doing these much bigger markets that fit me, but it's one of those situations where the market has to go well. And I just have to be very, very smart about wasting where I can risk things. Like I know I can't be completely risk averse, but yeah, I don't know. It's just been like an interesting year. Definitely one that has had a lot of opportunity, a lot of things for me to try. I'm sounding very vague right now. It's because I'm just kind of freaking out that it's almost August. Like, my brain has now had to seriously consider what's happening in the winter season, during the holiday season, and also kind of what's gonna happen next year. We still have 5 months of the year left, and my brain has already moved on to the following year. This is fun. I like drawing these plums. This is like the perfect color palette for plums. I did not expect that. Did not know that I had the perfect amount of ink for drawing these plums. Like, anyone looking at this would know that this is a plum, right? It doesn't look like any other color fruit. Also really love, because this ink that I'm drawing with right now seems like it would be quite blue, but it's actually quite green. It's got bluish tones, but it's got a lot of green in it, much more green, and that's what I was looking for. I don't know if this is what a plum tree looks like, but artistic interpretation, artistic liberties are taken. Okay, I'm going to do a background color and just sort of fill it in. Yeah, so I've been really feel like really pressured for time, but at the same time it's weird because I also feel very... Alright, before I go into my spiel though, I'm doing a background color. I want it to be sort of fadey and not really interfere. I think I might do one of the Korean inks, and I can choose to do this like very minty color, which doesn't seem like the right vibe. But then the other one's too gray, so maybe I won't use any of these. Maybe I'll use Antler, which is this brownish tone right here. Maybe I'll do that and it'll create some of this like earthiness. Oh, and some of these inks have glitter supposedly, but they're very faint, like pineapple spritz right here. Like, you guys won't be able to see it because I can barely see it even with the book shoved into my face, but when you flip the page, it's got a tiny amount of glitter in it. But okay, I think actually, you know what, I'm gonna use Nostalgia, that weird color that looks not great on camera. But it looks good in person, so I'm gonna use it. There it is. Yeah, so it's like a weird mix of like me being really stressed about all the stuff that I need to finish. However, it's also forced myself to, it's lit a fire in me to actually move forward on things that have been in sort of need to do purgatory for quite a bit. So there was just a bunch of, for instance, I had this project I really wanted to do. It was in my brain, it was in my notes forever. I even took pictures of my partner in reference, for reference photos. And those photos were taken forever ago. So it's just something that I've been working on for such a long time. I thought about for such a long time, and then I just did not move forward on it. And now it's a project that I 2 weeks ago finished, like, actually the design, and printed out the design since then, transferred it to a linoleum block, and have now carved most of it. It's a two-part one though, so it's a two-stage relief print. So there's an outline, and then there's a second block that will be the color. I'm also hoping, fingers crossed, this to be one of my, it's an original work, it's an original series I actually want to do. I want it to be a set of 4 prints, but at the moment there's only 2 because I only brainstormed about 2 ideas for this set, and they can be standalone, but they're meant to be together. But yeah, I also want it to be an original piece that combines my interests. So for a long time I've told people I'm a print and fiber artist. Sometimes I told people I'm a mixed media artist. But what I really want to do is find ways to incorporate print making and fiber art things. So at the moment I've been trying to find ways to incorporate a lot of embroidery work into print that's been done on fabric, but now with this new series I want to try embroidering onto the paper that they're printed on. Paper embroidery is sort of a growing interest, so I would like to try that. There's a lot of people who are doing stitches on paper and it's really cool, and this was an idea that I've had forever since I first learned about it, and I just haven't tried it on any other ideas, any other projects I had, so I'm quite excited to finally move forward on an idea that's been in my brain for the greater part of a year now, probably. And that's what I mean, this sort of deadline forces me to just make things, to just commit, not freak out, or at worst for me is procrastination. So I'm going to try doing a very general brown background on all of this, and then on top of it maybe try layering with that green color again and see how it looks, because I actually have never blended the inks together. They're not like watercolors where they blend in a way that I feel like you can fully control, because the ink colors are just so particular and different, and some of them have the effects like I said, so but yeah, I'm starting my true original work, which is very exciting, something that's been resonating with me for quite a while. I will put it up on social media when it's done, but there's probably already some progress photos of it up there. I also have finished transferring and have started carving the biggest linoleum block I'm working with right now, which is a 12 by 18. And it's a piece about the Edgar Allan Poe short story called The Masque of the Red Death. It's one of my favorite Poe stories, and I wanted to do my version of it, so it's very big, and I learned a lot. I realized that I'm so used to working smaller on smaller canvas sizes that I sometimes just like sort of, even though I'm very particular about details in my artwork, I kind of wash them out a little bit when I'm digitally designing them, because when you print it and transfer it onto an actual block in the real world, a lot of those details get washed out, because it's impossible to achieve that level of small carving. Not the case when your block is enormous. So there's actually big sweeping areas that I thought would look kind of okay in a smaller block, but actually looks huge on a big block. Just, it's like, oh, maybe I should have added more lines there, because it totally would have handled it. I would have been able to carve all those lines. But I'm glad that I got to experiment with this one. I'm really excited for you guys to see it. It's huge. it's probably going to take me less time than I thought to carve it because it's got less detail associated with it on such a big piece. So I can just do big sweeps with my blade and just cut a ton of areas down at once. But yeah. Yeah, Mask of the Red Death is one piece that I'm working on. That's my biggest piece. I'm hoping to try some experimental print techniques with that one. And then I've got another one on this is another exciting piece that's been in my brain forever. Finally got around to carving it. It's based on the astronaut 𝔸𝕗𝕚, who is the first astronaut to do an untethered float into space back in the 1970s, 80s, 1980s. I forget exactly which year, but he is basically just floating off into space, and he's talking to Houston about what he sees, and something about that image of a person floating in deep space by himself is just like both one of the scariest things to see, but also one of the most hopeful things to see about what can be achieved if by humans just doing things and like having science, the science to work out, you know, how are we going to get this man out into space, have him just float there around the planet, and then safely return him back to the space shuttle or the ISS. So something really humbling but also exciting about that image to me. I'm a bit of a space head nerd, so I love everything that has to do with the history of space flight, any philosophy around it, lots of the science and physics stuff about space excites me. Project Hail Mary, I saw the movie, I read the book. Andy Weir is like one of my favorite authors. I really like how he writes about science and physics in his books. I think they're very approachable that way. Some people might disagree. Some people don't like that sort of really data heavy text. A lot of science mumbo jumbo, some people would say. But I really love it. I love that it throws a lot of facts towards us, things to learn. I don't know. It just feels like an untapped frontier to me. And I grew up really fascinated by space. I remember one of the first science projects. I think this was like either kindergarten or first grade. It was like, I think it was to do a report on, I think it was first grade. It can't have been kindergarten. But yeah, I distinctly remember my first science report. They wanted us to do, I forget the assignment exactly, but they wanted us to do a report on a figure. Could have been, I think, any figure. Didn't have to be science. Any figure, and I chose Mae Jemison, who is one of the astronauts, one of the first African-American female astronauts to fly into space, and she was really cool. I remember my first ever science report was on her, and I still remember that. It's just like sometimes you have these really funny core memories that stick with you. Sorry, I'm painting down here, by the way. Didn't realize I was edging away from the edge of the camera. But yeah, I have a ton of books that I haven't exactly had a chance to read, but I love learning about space. I love learning about all the advances we make. I was very excited about the Artemis mission that recently, this past few months, went up into space and traveled around the moon. That's all my jam, really. So that's why I have an art piece, an art print that really loves and respects space and all the adventurous people who have gone up there. And I mean have left our Earth's atmosphere, not just like temporarily been in our stratosphere. I mean the highly trained professionals who have gone into space. But yeah, it does make me sad that our 21st century modern interpretation of space is now like, how do we commercialize it? How do we turn it into a big thing for tourists? How do we, and less about learning more about the origins of where we come from and the things that led to human society, or not human society, but just like if you are an archaeologist who is fascinated by the start of species, I feel like my like sort of parallel interest is that of like the Big Bang and how the universe started. It's like the origin of everything is something that I feel very excited to learn more about. And I feel like it's becoming less and less about that, less about learning it, and more about, how do we commercialize it? How do we make space another way to separate human beings, you know? How do we make it so that only certain people can go into space? And how do we defund things that can lead us to have more knowledge about what's out there? David recently had me watch, he loves space as well, he loves astronomy as well, and I never saw it, but I watched Contact with him, based on a Carl Sagan novel, and it was so good. It was just like captured. It has Jodie Foster in it, Matthew McConaughey, and it is so good. I really loved it. It was very much, it definitely is not the same vibe as Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary, which is very, if you read his books, they are very accurate and they're very informative about the realities of space travel. Whereas Contact, written by an astrophysicist still, it's written by someone who does understand the technicalities of space travel, but it was very philosophical. It was very much how humans can understand themselves through these huge areas of unknowability. And how do we define ourselves? How do we find ourselves? How do we find meaning? And how do we define faith in something that is, and I say faith in a way that's very unusual to me, because a lot of people hear faith and they think religion. And for me, this movie was very interesting because it talks about religion quite a lot, but in a way that doesn't feel evangelizing. So much of religion can be collated with that sort of mentality of conversion and converting you and your beliefs, whereas this felt more like I was listening to dialogue from two very empathetic, impassioned individuals, very smart individuals who had much respect for each other, kind of having similar paths where they were trying to find out about the meaning of life and the meaning of how we define ourselves in our brief time on Earth, and what Earth means to us and what the people on Earth mean to us. And it just felt very much like respectful, and it felt very beautiful, and it has that famous line of Jodie Foster describing space, and she's trying to talk about it, and then she just starts crying, and she says the line where, they should have sent a poet. And that for me was so emotional. because she worked so hard to go get to this moment, and then she gets there and then she's just so overwhelmed by what she's seeing that she's like, I can't even, I wish they had sent someone who could beautifully describe what I'm seeing. And I felt like that was such a beautiful encapsulation of how I perceive space and how I want people to perceive space in any sort of area on earth that needs to be seen and needs to be discovered. And I know that like it's just so hard for me to convey how much I love anything involving space travel. Like even my favorite video games are about space travel. And yeah, I was really glad to have seen that movie. I had seen memes of it. I just like never saw the movie itself. But now I have to read the book. Just haven't had time. Sorry, this painting of the background has been very soothing, but it kind of looks like they're floating in dirt, which is interesting. But I think maybe if I add some like shading here and there, it will look a little bit better. Yeah, I do love painting with ink. I think that's like one of my favorite things. I think it's probably my preferred thing. Even with watercolor, I don't like using the palettes as much, or the ones in the tube as much. I like the liquid watercolor. Something about the liquid just really speaks to me. I think it's the way the water moves around the paper. It just, but retains its saturation, and where the ink goes and pools is where you'll get shading, which is very exciting to me. But yeah, I really loved that movie. I would watch it again. I mean, I recently watched some trash movies as well. Yeah, my partner and I watched Mortal Kombat 2 recently. That was just a fun movie. That was just a fun, ridiculous ride. Okay, alright, and then like I said, I'm going to try shading with a little bit of the green from earlier. Let's see if that mixes well. I'm not quite sure if it'll work out, but we'll see. Yeah, like I said, I can't stay too long on today's stream, unfortunately, because I gotta get back to my works. Gotta do some ordering of business stickers today. I also have to do, so I don't like carving at night. I can carve at night, I just have to change my entire lighting structure, which is a bit annoying. I might be able to get away with it tonight maybe, but if I have to. But usually when it hits like dark-ish outside, and I've been carving all day, then I might just do like print prep, which is like prepping the paper, prepping the supplies, prepping the ink, because that can all take some time. I also recently, I might share this on my social media at some point, but also drying your prints, especially if you use oil-based inks, can take a really long time. And so I used to have this clothesline set up in my studio, and I would hang prints on that, and it was just so inconvenient, and also didn't hold as many prints as I was hoping. So I saw this Instagram post from another printmaker where they had their own makeshift print drying rack made out of a wooden beam and clothespins. And I went out and I bought all the supplies for it, and I'm gonna make it here for my home, like have a wooden beam just hanging out on a piece of furniture. And yeah, I'm just gonna attach some clothespins to it, and then hopefully that will stack the prints in a way that will allow them to dry without impeding me walking through my own apartment. Just doing a little bit of shading here and there. Yeah, it has less to do with like mixing and more to do with like, I don't know. It actually looks quite nice now that I see it. Now that it's drying and I see how it actually looks. Yeah, it kind of gives like a nice little earthy layer, a little additional plant layer, which is fun. Yeah, so print prep tonight, ordering some business stickers tonight. Just going over my chores with you guys. And then there was a time when sort of this crunch time forced me to spend less time, like really cut hours on spending time with friends and loved ones. And I'm trying to not do that anymore, because I realize like if I do that, I just perpetually won't see people and I won't be able to do things, I won't be able to hang out. So even in the midst of me being really maybe not burnt out just yet, but me just like prepping intensely, if I have friends who are like, let's meet for drinks, let's go out, let's go on a date, I'm like, okay, I will commit. I will go out, even though I'll try to manage my time spent outside, but I won't say like, if I can't really make it, I'll just like reschedule to a time where I know I'll be more available. But now I'm not like outright saying no anymore, so I feel like I used to just not be able to do anything. I'm trying to live my life in addition to doing, because what is the point? What will be the point of me doing all this hard work and not being able to enjoy spending time with my friends and loved ones? Yeah, I'll be in Providence very soon, because it's almost August, insane, and I will be in Ridgewood this Saturday doing a print market, which I'm very excited for. It feels like I'm getting a bunch of stuff on Instagram. I kind of use Instagram as my classifieds. It's how I find a lot of opportunities, and I follow a lot of accounts that are organizations and businesses and things that could potentially be things that I could tap into in the future. So I go on Instagram pretty frequently to basically look at like job opportunities, and I feel like a lot of the things that I see are happening are like we're opening applications for vendors, or we're looking for someone to staff this event, and it's all like happening in August in the middle of my market. So I'm kind of like, oh, that's such a shame. It would have been nice for me to try this, but I'm actually going to be very busily investing all my time at this other thing, which I'm very like excited, nervous about. Like it's the Necronomicon convention in Providence. It's Lovecraftian themed. I've mentioned it before, and I'm very excited because this is my first time doing such a big market that's sort of a niche thing. That's sort of I really love Lovecraftian horror. Not the author, but the sort of category of horror is very exciting to me, and I want to be surrounded by other people who really love Lovecraftian and cosmic horror. And then this is my first time doing like an actual event that's been organized by people who really love, who are part of the deeply entrenched and involved in the horror community. And have the theme of the market follow that. So I'm very excited about that. It's my first time doing such a niche market of this scale. And they're also only biannual, so I applied for this. I missed the deadline back in 2024. And 2025, they did not run. And then 2026 is when I got in. So they run only every 2 years too. It seems like they have a healthy amount of people who really love going to these as well. So I'm excited in that way. I'm excited about meeting other people and talking to people and meeting new vendors and talking about horror with vendors and customers and people who are attending the event. So I'm really excited about that. I'm just really also nervous because an event like this is expensive investments, and it's like you always question like, oh, okay, because with older markets, with markets that you've done before, you kind of know how it'll go, or if they're very low budget and you didn't invest too much time up front and money up front, then it's a little bit more low risk. But with something like this, where I did have to risk quite a bit, it's very nerve-wracking. So I'm hoping it'll be good. I'm hoping it'll be good for me. I'm hoping I walk away with a lot of positives rather than negatives, because you just never know until you actually do it. All right, yeah, it's 7:05. The plum drying is finished. Look at it. Look at the plums. Look at these delicious plums. It's making me like really hungry for fruit. And I think I have an apple in the fridge. I think I might have an apple. I want to write a couple of lines from the poem that really resonated with me. I really like the line, "Its potential lives inside a tree you'll never see," which to me can also extend beyond the plum. For me, it feels like a great line about empathy and empathizing with other people that you might never meet, that you might never have the same experiences, but you recognize their ability to bring joy to the world, their ability to exist with the same level of potential that you do. I just feel like that's a really great line, where I feel like a lot of people just see only benefits in what will immediately impact them, whereas a lot of, I think, humans being human is to understand and feel these high emotions and kindness towards things that are not immediately beneficial to you. A lot of people, for me, like the biggest thing that I am, well, it's sort of the hill I will die on, is respecting autonomy of others, and this need to like control what other people are like, to control your immediate surroundings, to control things that are out of your control is, I think, very detrimental to not just the individual, but anyone else who follows that same train of thought, that train of, I only like what I immediately relate to, I only like what I immediately see benefits for. And I feel like there's so many things that make each individual unique, and if only we could just respect that about each other, I think it would just create a lot less frustration, a lot less anger, and a lot less violence towards others. So I think that line speaks to me quite a lot, because it almost speaks as if like it's talking about if you were to create parallels between you and this plum representing other people, it just feels like it's talking about maybe a person you'll never meet in another country, in another kind of society, that you will never that you'll never physically or visually lay your eyes on. But if by chance of the universe you meet each other, then hopefully it's a joyful interaction. Yeah, I think that line is great. We'll gather sugar, gather mass, we'll harden at its center so it can soften toward your mouth. I like that line too, we'll harden at its center so it can soften toward the mouth. It's kind of almost seems like you have a hard sense of self, or a very strong sense of self, but you are soft towards meeting other people, you are soft towards incorporating new ideas. I feel like that is a really great mentality to have, as well as to be really open-minded and not let rigidity. I think it's important to have a really strong identity and a strong sense of self and a healthy sense of self-respect, but not at the detriment of harming others or controlling others. So the idea that you would soften toward your exterior so that you can be kinder and in turn meet kind people would be, and understanding people, and you yourself being more open-minded and understanding as well is kind of nice as well. The plum you're going to eat next summer doesn't know you exist. The plum you're going to eat next summer is growing just for you. It also sounds a lot like parenthood, this one. I feel like the poem can be used in so many ways, and I really love this poem. Some people could read it and just think about plums, and that's totally fine too. I think it talks a lot about how the food industry and fruit growing and vegetable growing and crop growing can influence you, but I also see a lot of parallels between how this could be interpolated for human society and parenthood. So, okay, so let's see. I'm gonna just write my favorite lines around the poem, around the drawing, I mean. Its potential lives inside a tree. You'll never see. And then maybe I could do another line on the side here. In an orchard you'll never see. I also just like these random words. Water droplets, angles of light, bugs and dust motes. So water droplets, angles of light, bugs and dust motes. You guys can't see that at all. Bugs and dust motes and hands you'll never see, or hands you'll never know. I think I'm going to do the last line for this last section of the frame. I'm going to do the last line of the poem. The plum you're going to eat next summer is growing just for you. I think it just speaks to me because the poem feels a lot like potential energy. And I've been saying that word a lot this year. Potential energy. Some of it has been converted. If you're a big physics head like me, you know, potential energy converts to kinetic energy. Energy is a finite resource, blah, blah, blah. And there's formulas to calculate how that changes between the two. Like, you know, in physics class, it was converting potential energy of like a wave breaking, because it carries a wave carries a lot of energy. And for me, that speaks a lot to how I felt creatively this year. It's felt like I call it the swell. In moments of high creativity, where I just have this urge to create, this compulsion to make something, and my brain just like starts firing on all cylinders, and I just have so many like great ideas. I started carrying a notebook around because of that, or I just write it on my notes app on my phone, and I call it the swell. And it happens a lot when I'm walking. So I've been walking a lot for work this summer, and I would be walking all over the city, and I would just notice things. I've stopped listening to music actually. I've just like noticed things happening around me. I kind of go into this sort of dream state a little bit when I'm walking, and if I'm really tired, it doesn't work. But if I'm having a really good day, then I sort of feel this compulsion to make something, like really, really, like my body like feels it. Like my mind is pushing my body into doing something about it. And so the brain starts generating all these ideas, and I've started calling it the swell because it feels like I'm riding a wave, and there's so much like energy below me, and it's making me want to like make things and generate things, and it's all in my head at the moment. But when the wave breaks is when I go into these like periods of creative making, of making things. And it's happened a lot this year where I've become more attuned to what my body is doing when it isn't consuming content all the time. So that's why I stopped listening to music and podcasts, or having even like my headphones on when I walk around the city anymore. I've stopped doing that during my work periods, even at home. So for hours I would just kind of sit in the silence and just let the task or my mind just preoccupy me. And I don't know, it's done a lot to reconfigure my brain's electrical pattern, I feel like. It just feels very different. If you're listening and you are also trying to go on a more creative journey, try this method. I don't know if this works for everyone. There are days where I do listen to a podcast. Like this morning, I worked for maybe 3 hours in silence, and then I put on a podcast. So the morning hours felt very like sacred. It felt very much like I was on my own. I also like to wake up early before the city wakes up, so I kind of like do my own thing in my own head for a while. It also just feels like my own personal meditation. But that's what this poem also seems to allude to, is just the idea of like there's potential in you. There's potential in everything. And it's just very exciting when you recognize it. It's just very exciting when you recognize there's something you want to achieve and you can achieve it. You know the steps to achieve it. So then you just start doing it. It's just a very exciting emotion for me personally. I got really caught up in this poem. I got very excited about talking about all this stuff. Maybe it's because I've been spending these last couple of weeks stressed, but still making things. So maybe maybe also that nap I took really helped me. The plum you're going to eat next summer is growing just for you. Okay. That's it. That's the that's today's session. Art After Light, 4th consecutive week. Thanks you guys for joining me on this. We've done all of July, you guys. We've done all of July. I've done all of the July schedule, which is very exciting. It's about to be August, so I can release the August schedule very soon, in these next few days. I'll try to do it this weekend. But yeah, the August schedule is going to go up. If you've been loving watching me live or watching me on the VOD, yeah, I have a Discord, I have an Instagram. It's all in the description below every live stream. So feel free to sign up and follow me and join the Discord. A couple of my friends and members on there have uploaded some artwork, and I'd love to see your artwork if you've been doing any with me. That's what Art After Light is hoping to encourage. But yeah, I hope to see you on social media, because that's where I'll be announcing next month's prompts and the schedule. Next month is a bit sparser than this month. I'm losing a week because I'll be in Rhode Island, so I won't be able to stream. So there's only 3 sessions next month, but hopefully you'll enjoy them, and they are all different topics. So hopefully that will be exciting. And yeah, that's it for the July live streams, you guys. Thank you to everyone who's followed me also. Like I've noticed there was a spike on my YouTube channel from all you lovely people joining me, and I really hope, if you haven't had a chance to take some time, because these are going to happen every month, almost every Wednesday, and I would love for everyone to at least produce one piece of artwork with me and practice. Everything here is just an experimental little area of the internet. There's no need to perfect any skills or anything. And yeah, I really hope you guys have enjoyed July's live streams, and I'm going to be seeing you in August very, very soon. So yeah, thanks you guys. Thanks for showing up for today's July's last live stream, and I'll see you next week at the next Art After Light. Thanks you guys. Have a good night.